you are in a relationship or have thoughts of being in a relationship, you need to listen really close to the story. Welcome to DJ's True Crime. The marriage of Cheryl and Luke Coe. Chapter 1, The Agreement. From the outside, the Coe home looked calm. It sat in a quiet Georgia neighborhood where evenings were predictable. Garage doors closing, porch lights turning on, television glow through the blinds. Nothing about the house suggested it would ever become a crime scene. It looked like a place where arguments ended and mornings reset them. Inside, though, Cheryl and Luke Coe had made a decision many couples never discuss openly. They agreed their marriage would not be exclusive. At first, the agreement was mutual, structured, negotiated, and controlled. Like most arrangements of that kind, it depended less on attraction and more on balance. Both people had to feel equally respected inside the rules that they created. And the rules, they established the relationship. And for a time, that held true. Chapter 2, When Balance Quietly Moves. Open relationships rarely collapse immediately, but they do drift. At first, the couple communicated about outside partners carefully. Conversations, boundaries, and reassurance. But over time, conversations became shorter and the assumptions longer. Luke began expressing discomfort. Not anger at the idea itself, anger at the frequency. Something that Cheryl called her playdates. Plans appeared more often, closer together, less discussed beforehand. What had started as a shared arrangement gradually began feeling to him like a decision he was no longer a part of. The difference was subtle, but very important. The agreement had originally been something they entered together. Now it was something he was being informed about. Chapter 3, Comfort. Investigators later examined messages between them. Tone mattered more than any single sentence. Luke sounded unsettled, trying to renegotiate emotional space inside a structure no longer felt equal. Cheryl sounded increasingly casual about it. Not secretive, but comfortable. And comfort changed how often it happened. What once required discussion started requiring notification. Plans stopped sounding like requests, started sounding like schedules. To Luke, the relationship had shifted from mutual freedom to tolerated absence. He wasn't reacting to one encounter. He was reacting to repetition. Chapter 4, Arguments that never finished. Their disagreements didn't explode, but they did recycle. Couples often believe the danger is shouting, but repetition is usually more corrosive. The same subject returning night after night stops being about the subject. It becomes about significance. Luke wanted reassurance. Marriage still had weight. Cheryl acted as though the agreement already answered that question, and neither one felt understood. And because neither felt understood, conversations never truly ended. Oh, they paused, but they always resurfaced. Sometimes softened, and then they were hardened again. And over weeks, topics stopped being outside partners entirely. It became respect. Chapter 5. Distance without leaving. The home itself, it didn't change. It still shared rooms, routines, and meals. But emotional distance does not require physical separation. Two people can live in the same space while measuring relationship differently. Luke, well, he began reacting more strongly. Cheryl, she became reacting less. One person felt something slipping away. The other felt something already settled. And by early summer 2021, arguments carried familiarity. The kind where both people already know others' response or it's spoken. Nothing new was said anymore. It was just said again and again and again. And repetition builds pressure because it removes resolution. Chapter 6. Final evening. June 23rd, 2021 felt ordinary. Cheryl drank that evening and went to bed early. Luke remained awake, working elsewhere in the house. It was the same pattern they had followed on countless other nights. Separation inside shared space. But unresolved conversations have gravity. Eventually, people enter the same room again. And at some point late that night, Luke walked in to the bedroom. No one knows which sentence came first, only that the subject wasn't new. The balance of the relationship, who still had a say in it, returned one more time. Chapter 7. The moment. Argument escalated. Later explanations would vary, but physical evidence never did. Gun discharged at contact range. Not across the room, not at a shadow, not at a stranger. Distance between them was 0. Conversation that had repeated for weeks ended in a single irreversible second. Only after the shot did silence enter the house. Cheryl called 911 and reported that she had fired a gun. And Luke Coe, well, he died in the bedroom. Chapter 8. The aftermath and the verdict. Investigators found no intruder, no forced entry, and no missing property. The case centered on the argument and the changing explanations that followed. In August 2025, a jury convicted Cheryl Coe of malice murder, felony murder, and aggravated assault. She was sentenced to life in prison without parole. And in closing, the case never became about a mystery suspect. It became about imbalance. How an agreement meant to share freedom instead divided control. How repetition replaced resolution, and how one final argument occurred with a weapon within reach. Marriage did not end when the rules were broken. It ended when neither person believed the rules meant the same thing anymore. And the last conversation was the only one they will never repeat.